Montreal Canadiens, Tampa Bay Lightning, Stanley Cup in the house. We've got your final game summary coming up. All right, Paul, it's all over. Tampa Bay Lightning, your 2021 Stanley Cup champions, back-to-back, 2 years in a row. I'm sorry, first of all, I know Montreal is your team, so a little bit of moment to mourn. I apologize on behalf of the gods of hockey that it didn't go your way, but your team didn't lose to such a bad team. I mean, Tampa Bay, a very respectable team this year.
No shame losing to them. They were the better team throughout the series. They were the better team throughout the playoffs. Such a strong core, so much depth, such a great defensive unit, and then solid goaltending. They had every piece of the magical puzzle that you need to win the Stanley Cup.
Conn Smythe winner. Waiting for you to comment on who might have gotten that one right.
I still hold true to the fact that Vasilevskiy made some good saves, but that unit kept the puck to the outside. They didn't have to make the types of saves that Carey Price was making, that's for sure. He was good. I still think Kucherov was better. I'm sticking to that.
Okay, well. And I'm going to stick to the fact that I really appreciate. I thought Andrei Vasilevskiy, I thought that was, just a stunning performance and worthy of the Conn Smythe in my humble opinion.
Very well. You get this one.
One of the things about this Tampa Bay team is that they seem to just have the talent and depth to win in so many different ways. And, they can just shut a team down in a wide open, high scoring game, or if it's a choking, defensive game, they can win that way too. And, it's hard to put it together when a team just has so many different gears down to their third, fourth lines.
I think the thing that amazed me about this team is how relentless they were. They were on every puck. They won all those little battles. Every time it was on the boards, they would come out with it. Look at the goal they scored. That was a puck battle that they won. And that caused Montreal to be out of position. Corey Perry was out of position. Joel Edmondson lost the battle behind the net. Then they lost the battle in front of the net. And then Edmondson lost the battle with Colton for the goal. So it's just a case of they were relentless. The other thing that's amazing about them is their transition game. The way they just, they'll go from defense to offense like nothing you've ever seen. It was incredible.
Who is the happiest person in Tampa Bay right now? I wonder if it might not be the mayor of Tampa Bay, who was on the hook for having said that she was kind of hoping the series would, that they would lose in Montreal so they could come back and win it at home. She took an awful lot of heat in the media on that one, and I think probably a little bit relieved that she didn't, that little tempting of the gods of hockey didn't end up burning her.
Well, we've said this before, though. It was over. Yeah. Montreal got lucky the other night and stole one, but it was over after Game 3. Once they went down 3-0, statistically they had no chance. And let's face it, this team just wasn't good enough to play with Tampa. Tampa Bay had so many gears, so many different styles they could play. Montreal just wasn't good enough. That's the bottom line. And there's no shame in getting beat by the Tampa Bay Lightning.
No, you've commented before about how many future Hall of Famers are on this Tampa Bay team too. And that's... when you talk about depth and you've got multiple guys who are going to be in the Hall of Fame, wow. All right, let's
yeah, for sure.
Let's talk dynasty for a second here and the possibility therein. Tampa Bay, looking at their roster and their contract status for their players. I'm going to name a bunch of players here, and some pretty significant impact players that made a big difference in this series. Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Andre Palat, Yanni Gourde, Nikita Kucherov, Anthony Cirelli, Alex Killorn, Patrick Maroon. The list goes on. Andrei Vasilevskiy, Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough. These are all guys, the core of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're all already under contract for next year. Not even a question of contract negotiations. none of them are coming up for free agency. There are a few players, Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman, Ross Colton. There are a few guys that, for sure they play a role and they contribute to some of the depth that we've talked about Tampa Bay having, yet they're not the main core. And, if Tampa can re-sign some of those guys and not lose too badly in the expansion draft, I'm seeing a team that is going to be right in the hunt next year once again. What do you think?
Oh, I can't see why not. I heard John Cooper commenting about how we had to play this out because we don't know if this team's going to be together next year and one last hurrah and all that nonsense. But like you said, the core is intact and they'll plug the holes. Clearly, they know what they're doing in Tampa. You look at the taxi squad; they've got some nice young players on that. Boris Kachuk, Taylor Radish. Who's the other guy? Alex Boulay. There's some talent there. There's some depth that they'll get groomed by those guys from watching champions, and that will be passed down to them. I have no fear that this team will be on top next year. Whether they can win it again, that's another story. But they'll certainly be at the top of the heap again, heading into the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, they'll be in the hunt, and obviously this year certainly demonstrated that unexpected things can happen in playoff time, but only good teams can actually get to the dance, and I would be shocked if Tampa is not in the playoffs for next year, and at the very least with home advantage in the first series, to kick it off. After that, maybe who knows, but they'll be contenders. I am certain of that. Barring a couple major injuries, right? That's always the X factor that you can't be sure about. But Montreal, this was an up and coming team that showed some spark that we didn't expect from them. But they've got some age differences in the roster. They've got some young guys coming up that are really impressive, really exciting, and really tempting to say, hey, this could lead to something. But you've also got some veterans that might be, on the other side of the slope. How does that all break down and play out in terms of where you think Montreal might end up next year?
I think Montreal will fall back a bit next year. I hate to say it. I think there's a huge learning curve for them, and how to sustain it will be the next stage of the game. You definitely have a nice core of young guys that are moving forward, but let's face it, they have one line that can score. There's some guys coming, but I still think they're a ways away from really being in the hunt every year. I think this was an aberration. Is that the word I'm looking for? From normal. We'll see. I don't feel as confident about Montreal being back in the dance as I do Tampa.
We're going to have lots of time on this channel. We'll be doing lots of things in advance of, lots of coverage in advance of the start of the coming season, so everybody can watch for that in the summertime. But Paul, I just want to ask you this question. This was a question that I saw in the chat on the Steve Dangle broadcast of the game. It was an interesting question being asked amongst Canadian teams. So the North Division gets broken up. We go back to the old divisional setup next year. Amongst the Canadian teams, who do you think is most likely to be a potential contender for next?
I think you got to go back to Edmonton and Toronto again. Toronto's just got so much depth. It's just whether they can fill in those missing pieces that they need. They're going to have some issues with their goaltending because I saw the other day Freddie Anderson's asking for a ton of money, so he's going to be gone. So is Jack Campbell the guy to lead them forward in net? They need to figure out what they're going to do with their depth. Those guys that help you win, like the Ross Coltons, the Barclay Goodrows, the Blake Colemans that you need to win. Toronto doesn't have those guys. They're not far away, but they need to patch some spots. The other spot would be Edmonton. How do you count Connor McDavid out? He needs to learn to win, and I think he will eventually. It takes a lot of stars a bit of time to figure it out. Alex Ovechkin was one. Connor McDavid will be all right. I think he needs more help, though. But I think the pieces are there and they're heading the right way. Darnell Nurse has turned into a dominant defenseman, so if they can kind of put pieces around him, they'll be all right.
All right, Paul, anything else to add other than a big word of congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning for this victory? But any other final thoughts before we sign off for tonight?
Well, I am excited about Montreal and watching the young guys. Cole Caulfield shows he belongs. I expect him to be Rookie of the Year next year. Nick Suzuki's one heck of a hockey player. Romanov looks good. So the future is bright in Montreal. I don't know what you're going to do on the back end. Shea Weber got pounded around. Is he going to have another big year next year? What about Carey Price? How does he take this after losing maybe his one shot? I hate to say this, but if I'm Marc Bergevin, I'm looking to move him. I'm looking to get pieces back and give him a shot to win and get out from under that contract, because he's on top of his game right now. Sure, you lose in the short term, but if you can get those pieces back that you need to build the championship, I don't think they'll be back for a few years. So I think you have to build in the meantime. How's that for a shocker for you?
You heard it here first. Price could be on the blocks. All right.
I doubt it. But I'd like to see it. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Now, does Price, though, does he have a no movement clause, I wonder?
I don't know, to be honest. He probably does. But maybe now that he's got a taste, if they sent him to a team that was on the cusp or had a shot of winning, I guess it depends whether he believes that Montreal can get back or not.
I wonder who a contending team that needs, when you talk about contending teams, you think about teams like maybe Vegas, maybe Colorado, but they seem to have their guy.
They have their guy, yeah. So maybe not.
Yeah, you'd have to kind of find the right up and coming team that, who knows, maybe Edmonton.
Yeah, we're just throwing stuff up against the wall to see what sticks. I don't think there's any chance that Carey Price moves. I think he's a Canadian.
Unlikely. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Please click like and subscribe below if you enjoyed this video. And be sure to check out our website. We'll put a link to the website in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
Take care, guys.